Welcome to Gospel Powered. This is Charlie, and we're in the middle of the series, What Jesus Says is True or There Is No Truth. And what we're doing is we're looking at statements made by Jesus and seeing what he is saying and then understanding what he is saying about the implications towards worldview. In other words, when Jesus says things, he is saying them in a context and expects them to be understood in that context, and the context is in the world that he's living in. And so as he describes the world and the things that he says, it has worldview implications. And what we're seeing is the things that Jesus says develops a worldview, and such a worldview like no other. And it is the only one that gives you access to the truth. Therefore, what Jesus says is true, or there is no true. And we see that explicitly today. We see it explicitly today because Jesus says his words are true. Let's look at it. We're going to look at John 8:31 to 36. And Jesus says this. So Jesus said to the Jews who had believed him, "If you abide in my word, you are truly my disciple. And you will know the truth, and the truth will set you free." Jesus says, my words bring freedom. Now, he says a lot more than that, so let's look at it. He says, abide in my words, and you're truly my disciples, and you will know the truth, and the truth will set you free. So abiding in my words, remaining, it's a continuous action that I am constantly in Jesus' words. And what does that mean? That I'm filtering the world through what Jesus says, and that I'm proclaiming his word into the world that I'm experiencing. So I'm filtering and proclaiming Jesus' words. And when I'm doing that, I am truly his disciple. Now, when I'm doing that as his disciple, then I know the truth. The truth about what? The truth about the world that I'm filtering through what Jesus said. Jesus' words gives me access to the world in such a way that I know the truth about it. And I proclaim that truth into the world. So I will know the truth, and the truth will set you free. The truth will free you in this world. It frees you from error. It frees you from consequences. It gives you wisdom in how to work and adjust in the world. And Jesus says all of this stems from my word. And so if you're truly Jesus' disciple, you will remain, that is, filter the world through Jesus' words, and you will proclaim Jesus' words into the world. And in doing that, you will know the truth and be set free by Jesus' words. Now, I hear from some of you right now, what do you mean free? Let's see. Look at 33 to 36. They answered him, "We are offspring of Abraham and have never been enslaved to anyone. How is it that you say you will become free?" Jesus answered them, "Truly, truly, I say to you, everyone who practices sin is a slave to sin. The slave does not remain in the house forever. The Son remains forever. So if the Son sets you free, you will be free indeed." True freedom. True freedom is not concerned about physical restraint. It is not a physical slavery that Jesus is talking about. He's talking about a spiritual slavery to sin. Now think about this. He is talking to the Jewish people. He is talking to the Jewish people and telling them, your physical slavery is not the issue. The Messiah did not come this time to release you from physical bondage. Now they say, we've never been enslaved to anyone. We're sons of Abraham. Well, they have, The sons of Abraham became the sons of David, and David was the king, and the kings fell quickly, and they went into Assyria into captivity, into Babylonia into captivity. The Medo-Persians took them into captivity. The Greeks then conquered them, and then eventually the Romans, and they are currently under the boot of Rome. So they can't even see that they are physically enslaved. They're saying that they're not enslaved to anybody, but truly their nation is enslaved to Rome. But Jesus says, I'm not worried about that slavery. That slavery we'll deal with later. I'm worried about your slavery to sin. Your slavery to sin and the devil. If you keep reading down the passage, he identifies the father of lies, the one that has them enslaved, and it is the devil. So he's worried about spiritual slavery to sin, and he says you can have freedom from this sin. What do you mean by freedom from sin? There's freedom from the penalty, power, and presence of sin. But in this passage, Jesus here is emphasizing you'll be delivered from the power of sin. The power of sin will not have a grip on you. Paul would say in Romans chapter 6 that you've been delivered from the dominion of sin. You're no longer under sin's control. You have been set free. What is the avenue to be set free? Jesus' words. Jesus' words show that you are his disciple when you're remaining in them. And as you remain in Jesus' words, it sets you free from the dominion of sin. So you will know the truth, and the truth will set you free, and that freedom is from the dominion of sin. So only Jesus' disciples can be freed from sin. There is no freedom from sin anywhere else, and there is no access to truth from anywhere else. Let's look at this from a worldview lens. The worldview lens says this: Jesus' words are necessary for his disciples. Abiding in Jesus' words gives knowledge of truth, and truth sets a person free from the power of sin. What does that necessitate? It necessitates a number of different things, and here they are. Sin is real, and it enslaves, but deliverance is possible. Sin enslaves, but deliverance is possible. Truth is real. It's knowable and gives freedom from sin. And Jesus and his words are key to being delivered from sin by knowledge of the truth. In other words, Jesus claims this: there is no other avenue to truth. No other avenue to truth. All other avenues end with no truth, only opinion. What Jesus says is true, or there is no truth. There is no avenue to truth outside of Jesus' words. Jesus' words, when you remain in them, you're truly Jesus' disciple. I'm filtering the circumstances and events of the world through Jesus' words, and I'm proclaiming Jesus' words into the world. When you're doing that, you're truly his disciple. And when you're doing that as a disciple, you will know the truth about the world and yourself and other people and circumstances, and that knowledge of the truth will set you free from the power and dominion of sin. This has not just worldview implications, but this has implications for the gospel. Jesus is the way, the truth, and the life. There is no other way to the Father but through him. Jesus proclaims the gospel, and the gospel has worldview implications for truth, and you must, as his disciple, proclaim it into the world. It's the only way to get people to see the truth. Have a great day. Thanks for considering this with me.